What's up, people? It's your boy. I'm Krista Don One, and I am back with another video. Was I a victim of white privilege? We're about to discuss this later on. But before we get into that, let's first talk about what is white privilege. White privilege is when a white individual gets special benefits or gets special treatment than the other nationalities. All right. I got two prime examples. One, if a black man and a white man walk into a bank and they both have the same resume and they both are applying for a loan, but the white individual gets it over the black individual, this could be considered white privilege. All right. If a black female and a white female both try to apply for the same job and both are equal when you look at their resume, and they reward the job to the white female, chances are this can be considered white privilege. All right. Now, I work for a large corporation. Now, when you're talking about our consumer base, the majority of them are Caucasian white individuals. All right. And when you look at our workforce, it's a mixture. But when you look at the upper tier, the management section, the majority of those positions are held and are run by white individuals, white male and white females. All right. One of these job titles came up for anyone to apply for, as long as they have the resume and the education behind it. All right. Now, when this posting was posted, only 3 people out of the whole corporation applied for this particular title. It was myself, it was a white male, and it was also a white female. All right. Now, when you're talking about, when you describe each one of us, we all brought something to the table. All right. And the one who had the most baggage was the white female. All right. Now, this particular lady, she had this exact same title that everyone was applying for at another location, but she got demoted at that particular location simply because she was not doing her job. They demoted her to a lower tier. All right. If it wasn't for the management at my location, she would still be there. All right. But the management at my location felt kind of sorry for her, had a soft spot for this lady, and they allowed her to transfer from her location to our location. Now, they sort of kind of broke rules in doing this, because you had to at least stay at that particular location for more than a year. She was only there for 8 months. Okay. So they allowed her to transfer, and the other location didn't mind for her to transfer because they already demoted her. She didn't have that title no more. They pretty much demoted her to a lower tier, and her pay was struck down as well too. So she moves into, she goes back to our location. All right. Now, when it came for an interview for the 3 of us, management didn't offer any interviews for me or the other 2 individuals. Instead, they reposted that particular job title, but they didn't allow any other corporations outside of where I work at any knowledge of this, and they only told certain people at our location. I was one of those individuals that they didn't tell. All right. And the second time, they did only 1 interview, and the white individual who had the bad track record wind up getting the job. Okay. Now, like I said earlier, when it came to our educational background, we was pretty much equal on that front. When it comes to our job performance, our job history, I had more to say on that particular category than the other two. The other two that was applying for this same job title. And I thought that the job I work at would recognize that, saying, okay, y'all all pretty much work, as far as your work experience go, you're all pretty much plussed on that. But when it comes to the job performance, when it comes to job tasks and how to delegate and things of that nature, your boy, I'm Chris the Don One, had more experience in that avenue than the other two individuals. All right. So they rewarded this job to this lady who already had this job at a previous location, and she failed miserably there. Now, I know some people are going to say, well, maybe it was the location. It wasn't necessarily her. Maybe things just didn't work out. Maybe it was the employees that worked under her. Maybe they just didn't like her, this, that, or the third. Or maybe it's just the simple fact of it was the reason why she didn't perform highly well at that particular location was because she just didn't have the experience or had the work ethic behind her. All right. I think those are two things that a lot of corporations really underestimate when they're evaluating people to run these corporations or have these particular job titles. All right. I said earlier in this story that the majority of the individuals that hold these job titles, the large, vast majority of them happen to be Caucasians. They happen to be white male Caucasians and white female Caucasians. All right. It's very rare. It's very slim for a minority to have that type of working title. All right. Having that type of job title. All right. It's very rare. I'm not saying it won't happen, but I'm just saying if you look at our corporation as well as several other corporations that I work for, if you look at their buildings and if you look in their history, you will find every once in a while you may find a black female or a black male, but it's very rare and it's very seldom. All right. It is very hard for African Americans to advance to these job titles, to these job levels, when you don't have people that are our color and our complexion and struggle the same way we struggle in those positions. You really don't have anyone that can speak for us because the voice is very limited on that side of the desk. Okay. Now when it comes from below that job title, then there's a mixture. All right. The mixture is, you have African Americans, you have Caucasians, you have other nationalities. But when you try to advance further, it's very hard for an African American male to be recognized and be rewarded of a job title. Okay. Now, later on, I talked to my manager, and basically he said in a nutshell that basically the reason why she got the job was because of past experience with that individual. Now, when I questioned him about, well, that may be true, but she did fail at another location, and shouldn't that played a huge part on the decision where you ultimately went to? I mean, yes, when you talk about the white male, even though he had other job titles in that particular building that he failed, I understand why they didn't offer it to him. But when you're talking about, for me, I have never failed at a job title. All right. This is a serious job promotion. All right. This would have been my first time, having a job promotion like this. And, maybe that played a part. Maybe they said we chose experience over, giving it to somebody that never had that position before. But I have to remind you guys that there were other titles during the past couple of years that they rewarded it to people that it was their first time having that job title, and those individuals happen to be white. Okay, so does white privilege play a huge factor and a huge part on ultimately why I did not get the job? I was not even offered an interview. Does white privilege play a part of that? And I would have to say yes. And also discrimination, and also the fact that we just don't have enough African American male or females on these higher tier job levels that can represent us to give an opportunity and a shot for the rest of us. All right, we just don't have anyone backing us. All right, and as long as you have the majority that happen to be Caucasians, then it's going to make it rough for the other minorities to push through. All right, so yes, I can consider this white privilege, but I really have to really consider this as, this is what, this is the mindset of Caucasians in high executive levels. All right, and with high job titles, they tend to pick people that they're familiar with, and that they appeals to them. All right, let's just face facts and just be honest about the whole thing. If you have a president or a CEO who happens to be Caucasian, 9 times out of 10 he's going to choose someone that's going to be under his wing, that's pretty much in the same logic as of him. All right, in other words, that person's going to be a mirror image of that particular person. All right, he's going to be a mirror image of that CEO. He's going to be a mirror image of that president. He's going to be a mirror image of that vice president, and so on and so forth. It is very hard. It's very few in the world, I'm talking about in the world, that would select an African American and they're not African American. All right, so it's just the way it is. We're going to have to demand more, respect more, especially in this era that we live in. Trump is the president of the United States. I'm not holding no ill will towards that. He won that position fair and square. But let's be fair and let's be honest. Also, Trump is only going to appeal to the people that appeals to him. All right, let's just face facts and face reality. A lot of African Americans really don't appeal or even recognize Trump like they did with Obama, like they did with Bill Clinton, and to a smaller extent Bush. We knew from the get-go, Bush, he just wasn't down with us. All right, I'm not saying that we was a villain towards Bush, but we all recognized and we all understood that Bush is not going to get down with us like Bill Clinton and several other presidents. It's just the way it is. Okay, so a lot of people say, another argument a lot of people say that I kind of get upset at is, the first thing they'll say is, well, African Americans have made great strides. Okay, y'all, we have a billionaire who happens to be African American. We have a lot of entertainers, a lot of athletes who now have voices, including actors and actresses who now not only have voices but now have power. Okay, so there are some things we should be proud of, but at the end of the day, that's only like a handful of African Americans. I don't think a handful of African Americans are ever going to change the progress and the process on the African American community as a whole to be uplifting and rise above, white privilege, discrimination, racism. We're never going to rise above that until we have people in our corner who happen to be African Americans. All right. But guys, tell me what you think. Rate, comment, subscribe. It's your boy. I'm Chris the Down One, and I ain't out.